So, a couple top level things that I really think are important for you to know is that these are the criteria that we run niches through before we give them a thumbs up, thumbs down. Number one, is there a hungry market? Is there a market of buyers in that market? Are people going to Google and actually searching for what it is that you're looking to advertise for? That's something that's really important. Every market's going to need a roofer, but here's the thing. If you're in a market that's got 10,000 people in a population, that's going to be a lot harder to get a campaign, the traction needed to get the client a return on investment, as opposed to, say, an area with 1 million people or 500,000 people. So you just have to think about markets, the size of the market, how many people are searching within that given market, and then make decisions based off that. I'll give you another example. Let's say you're in a town with, or a county with 100,000 people and you're a divorce attorney. Right off the bat, let's lop off 50% of that population for kids and super seniors, senior citizens. So right there, you got about 50,000. Of those, how many are happily married? Okay, let's lop off another 25,000. So now you've got 25,000. How many of them are already divorced? How many of them are maybe thinking about divorce? That's when you just start doing deductive math and just start taking out all different chunks of this. And all of a sudden, that 100,000 goes down to a really small number, because then you've got to think about how many of them are getting referred to a divorce attorney from a friend? How many are asking people within their network or at work or a family member or already know a divorce attorney? How many of them are seeing an ad on TV or in a newspaper or wherever else? And then how many are going to Google for that answer? And then you do it again and you go, how many of those people are actually clicking on the ad that you get in front of, which is going to be a very small number. And then of those, how many of those people are going to convert into a lead? And then how many of those are going to convert into a sale for the client? That's the type of math you've got to think about, and you've got to just look at the funnel, look at the market as a big funnel, and just keep working your way in until you get to the bottom, and just make sure the market's big enough and there's enough demand for it to make sense for the client. If it's a small transaction value and a small market, that's going to be harder to get a return on investment for a client. However, there are cases where it's a large transaction size. Maybe it's a piece of enterprise software or a large real estate development project or a commercial roofing job, something large like six or seven figure transaction size, or even high 5 figures. And the search volume is going to be really low, but the return on that search volume could be dramatic. It could really make sense. So in those situations, you've got to think about that as well. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer for this. You've got to use your brain and put it to use and kind of put it through this criteria when you're thinking about niches. So I actually skipped ahead here. Next, we're talking about client lifetime value, which I think I talked about in the first point. Kind of blended those two together. My bad. So think about client lifetime value. What's a prospective client's client worth to them? Is it worth $100 a transaction? Is it worth $1,000? Is it worth $1,500, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, $500,000? That's the type of stuff you've got to think about, and then be realistic with the client's closing ratio from a sales perspective. Everyone thinks they're great at sales, but the reality is most people suck at it. Ballpark, put a 10 or 20% closing ratio on, maybe even 10% on the amount of leads they're getting. Say they'll close about 10%, and then do the math based on that. They may tell you they close 50% or 80% of the leads that they come in. They're probably not tracking their sales. That's an extremely high number. The other thing to think about is referred leads, which most people get, or word of mouth leads, are going to close at a higher rate than a lead from advertising, because that's sort of a warm lead if you think about it. If it's referred from a friend, family member or friend, that's a much warmer lead than an advertising lead. So keep that in mind. So if they do close it, if they say they're closing at 50% and they're only getting word of mouth and referred traffic or referred leads, that's something to think about. They may be doing that, but just keep in mind that they're not going to close at that rate with AdWords traffic or Facebook traffic for that matter. So just make sure the client lifetime value is high enough for it to make sense for the client and for it to for the numbers to back out. And just go with broad strokes. I like to go with markets where one job more than pays for the advertising spend and the management fee if possible. Those are great because then you can look like a hero getting the client a few jobs per month, and you look like you look like the best thing since sliced bread, as corny as that sounds. Couldn't think of a better analogy on the spot. Sorry. Lastly, third and final here, we want to go with known advertisers. We want to go with markets that are already spending money on advertising, whether it be already in AdWords or in industry trade journals or newspaper yellow pages, and we just want to redirect those funds towards a more appropriate marketing channel, a la AdWords. So it's so much easier to sell marketing services to those who already market as opposed to convincing someone or a business owner to the merits of marketing, and then to you as a person to handle the marketing for them on the channel that you suggest. So there's a lot more sales that you've got to make, or little sub-sales that you've got to make along the way if they're new to advertising or new to marketing and spending money on it. So do yourself a favor, go after people who are already marketing. Known advertisers are a heck of a lot easier to deal with, okay? So to recap, we're talking hungry market, we're talking high lifetime values, and we're talking about known advertisers. Those are the criteria we put people through or niches through when we're looking to figure out if it's going to work for AdWords.